So I got a shipment from Darksword Armory. 2 swords, one Gothic Two-handed Sword and the other Henry V's Army Sword. And this happened. Both of them have heavy rust covered on the metal fitting part. Fingerprints, and it's hard to rub it off. I use baking soda on it, and it doesn't make much of a difference. They gave me a certificate card and saying that both of them are inspected and carefully handled, which appear to be not true. I don't know why it's so hard to protect your metal fitting on the sword. If you're a sword setter, you're a sword dealer, well, you must know that, well, usually these metal fittings, the pommels and the guards are made of mild steel. They are prone to rust, and you should cover them with some light residue of oil. That's not hard. That's not difficult at all, because I handle swords every day, and I always wrap it off with some mineral oil, and it never really rusts. This is what happens when the sword dealers show total negligence and irresponsibility. And I spent almost $1,000 on these 2 swords, and this is the kind of treatment I got from ordering directly from Darksword Armory, and I'm not happy about it. Now the sword, the design is competent. This one is a very long hand and a half sword. Its blade is 38.5 inches, but it's really light. 1253 grams. That's 2 pounds and 13 ounces, which is extremely light for its blade length, for its size. It's handled pretty well, and a good distal taper. At the base is 6.5 millimeters thick. The center of the blade is 4.5, and near the tip is 3 millimeters. Except that this one is on sale for a specific reason. This one is on sale because of these excessive flex temper, which doesn't pass their quality assurance. So they sell it at $375 for the sharpened version. With the scabbard, but not the sword belt. And you can see there's a clear hollow round geometry on the blade, even though it's not very deep. I will compare this sword to the Albion region that I'll receive in probably 2 months. These 2 swords are based on the same sword, so in a museum in Zurich. So I will compare, even though they're not at the same price range, I will compare them. And so far, other than the lack of care in handling, this sword handles pretty well. And on the website, the regular version is stated to weigh at 3 pounds and 9 ounces or 8 ounces. That's roughly on par with the Albion region, which is even 1 inch shorter than this one. So I have had some Oakeshott Type XVIIIb swords, long swords before, that also has a problem with the spring temper being too flexible, like this one. If I flex this one, you can see that it's pretty flexible, which could be a problem in cutting. Not necessarily. You can generate some pretty significant tip speed with this kind of sword. So they are very competent cutters, but also thrust really well. And it's kind of a balance for long swords in late medieval times. It's very Germanic. And look at the fit and finish. I can see on this sword there's some rippling, very visible. probably due to the mirror polish. Well, this one is not a high mirror polish, but still it's not. It's above satin. There's a problem with the design of this guard. If you look at the Albion region, the guard here is not as prominent as this one, and it's flush to the grip. And by the way, this grip is very well done. It's hexagonal in shape, and it's very comfortable in hands. The right size, I would say. The cord wrap is evenly done. The riser has good definitions, and the transition to the pommel is mostly flush. And you can have generous space between the two hands on the sword due to the flamboyant fishtail pommel design. The pommel is relatively crisp with its lines, although from a distal point of view, it lacks a bit of geometry compared to the Albion region. The pommel is pinned, but it appears there's some blackened substance, maybe epoxy, to secure it. The fishtail pommel is not completely symmetric, so you can see clearly there's something went wrong during the grinding. And the blade is central line is mostly straight, and there's a lot of rippling down the blade. The line has some irregularity, and also this sword guard being too prominent, when you do like some grip with sword cowl and shield cowl. It's just uncomfortable on your hands. So it'll be great if they can improve this. Also, this guard is, I think it's not wide enough. It's not long enough. Usually, side of this lens, the width of the sword guard should be roughly equivalent of the grip, including the grip and the pommel. So this is kind of like just kind of narrow, but it's all right. I've seen sword, historical sword with this kind of guard. The guard itself is has some refinement. You'll see that it's octagonal shape, but it's also sanded down to be rounded around the edges, so it won't cut into you. So I like that. There's a very big gap between the blade and the cross guard. The grip has some risers, so you get a feel of where your hands should be, and you can change your grip. So I like that. So generally speaking, very competent design, but they really need to improve their handling, because this is the kind of care they show to the customers, to their products. I don't think I'll be ordering from them anytime soon. I ordered from them a short sword called the Mother of Dragon sword. It's from based on, I think, a sword from Royal Armory, and it has either Royal Armory or Wallace collection. It has a very intricate pattern on sword guard of the dragon's shape. That one has a bronze filling, so it's really hard to tell whether there's rust on it. Both of these are with steel fittings. You can see it's very, very visible rust, and it's just impossible to clean it off. The guard is this one is similar to the Albion Kingmaker. I'm not sure whether they name it the Albion Kingmaker because this is a Type XVIIIb sword with slight hollow ground geometry. And there's one sword in Westminster Abbey that's usually associated with Henry V. So it's usually named Henry V sword. So is this one. I think the Vatican Armory named it their version the Monarch. So that's appropriate. I don't know why Albion named it the Kingmaker, associated with Richard Neville. But fine. I'm receiving Albion Sovereign soon. And I'll be comparing these two arming swords, even though they're not the same type. This is Type XVIIIa. The Sovereign is Type 14 arming sword. But we can compare the fit and finish for sure. This one has a relatively short blade, 27 inches, very lively in hand, and being hollow ground, has a very loud swoosh sound. I like that. Handles really well. I measured this 27-inch blade and weighed it at 2 pounds and 1 ounce. That's very, very, very light. But I guess for its size, it's all right. And the point of balance, it's good. It's not too close to the guard. You wouldn't want that for an arming sword. That would just totally ruin the class. But it's not too far, so it's very, very maneuverable. I really like the feel of it. Henry V sword also got excellent distal taper. At the base is 7.3 millimeters thick. The center of the blade is 5.3 millimeters thick, and the near the tip is 3.5 millimeters. And the grip is kind of long to be an arming sword, so I guess you can call it a hand and a half sword as well. My son handles this like a two-handed sword. It's the right size for him, I guess, and he likes it. Being this light, it's really good for children and people with small stature. Yeah, the blade is not sharpened, but it has a very good, very fine edge. I can feel it digging into my flesh when I run my finger across the edge, but it's not cutting through the skin. So if I am to sharpen this, given the micro bevel, it will be a very competent cutter and thrust as well. A Type 18 sword family. Type XVIIIc is really wide, cutting-oriented longsword, which can thrust pretty well as well. Type 18A is, I think this one is Type 18A, is the arming sword with shorter grip. This one is kind of longer. I think the recent version of this sword has a reduced grip length. Type 18B that we just viewed earlier, the Gothic Longsword. Yeah, and Type 18E is also very unique. The Danish longsword, Danish great swords. So interesting overall. Good design, decent execution, fit and finish is everything is tight, secure, and the transition is mostly flush on this one, on the guard. So you'll be having a better time doing simplex sword handle with your thumb on the blade. It's also very comfortable with hollow ground geometry. Yeah, I like that. It's good. Price, the regular price for Henry V sword is I believe at $500. This one's on sale at $380, and well, there's a higher price version with sword belt, and the Gothic Two-handed Sword I believe is at 500 or 520 or something. So it's mid-range. Definitely not a budget sword, but by no means high-end. And I know it's hard to find sword at this price range today. As Valiant Armory swords move up to be the higher end, generally above $1,000. They still have a signature line of swords which use their 1060 high carbon steel instead of the 6150. This one I believe is the sword steel is 5160. So it's basically like mid-range sword steel, like people smiths have good experience with. You can give it a good temper, and this one's differentially hardened. The core is softer at 48 and 50 hardness, and the edges is 58, I believe, HRC. So it's good. But there's a problem when you hit something and have a poor edge alignment, it could warp the sword blade. But I suppose it's better than bending or breaking. This one's spring temper. It's pretty stiff. I like that. So yeah, that's about right. So I will say that on the sword blade, Darksword Armory has a good QA. One additional thing is that it's nice of Darksword Armory to provide scabbards, free scabbards for all their swords. Well, you can think of the scabbards as being included in the price. So there are wood core scabbards with some riser, which is nice. See, this one has some issues here. The glue between the scabbard and the chafe is very visible, kind of ugly. And this isn't necessarily an issue, but it's worth noting that the sole line is very prominent. In conclusion, Darksword Armory swords, excellent design and execution. Decent value for the money, dreadfully unprofessional handling. Update. I sent them an email to complain about it. They responded, asked me to return them, and promised to send me replacement. It's nice of them to try to do the right thing, but I'm not gonna give them the golden star for doing their jobs. This should have never happened if they even show a little bit of care when they handle the swords. They said that it's due to the humidity of the area. That's not an excuse. You know, swords shipped from elsewhere. I don't believe Florida is not humid. I don't believe Texas is not humid unless the sword is a scimitar shipped from the Arabian desert. It's the same condition in summer, and you're expected to do some basic protection of your metal fitting. That's just common sense. To be fair, it's not just Darksword Armory. You call it Cena, LG Martial Arts, and I just can't understand why this is such an overreach for sword buyers. As if we are a niche audience and we can't expect anything. If you go out to buy a nice iPad Pro or you buy a car, well, you don't expect to find some cosmetic damage or some rust or food spill and covering it. It's just that as if sword buyers are asking for too much to expect your products to arrive in good condition. And if it's absolutely nobody, for me, I'll have to wait for maybe a month or two for the replacement to arrive. For the dealer, it totally ruined their profit by offering additional shipping. And this could have been avoided so easily by spending maybe half a minute when you ship the swords, when you inspect them, just apply some light oil. When I went to a local store to buy swords, which is Lakes, Canada, I picked up the item from the store, and even so, they applied some light oil on the blade to prevent corrosion. So it's very nice of them. We'll see what happens when the replacement arrives. Also, some of their swords have different specs over the iterations, so there could be some variations. Some batch about the same design handle worse than others, and you can see the discrepancy of the Gothic Two-handed Swords, their stated weights on their website, and the weight of the sword I received. I prefer this one I've got here, but I'm gonna send it back. We'll see how the new swords will hold up.